Welcome to ASSAT Analysts, the debate game show where the points definitely matter and we take things way too seriously. My name is Josh Johnson, and I'm joined here with my roommates, Nathaniel Jackson.
Yo.
And Kyle Jennis.
Howdy.
Stay tuned to find out who truly is the king of pulling random facts and arguments right out of their ass.
Welcome to Monday's Parlay episode. My name's Nate. I'm joined with my roommates and fellow hosts, Kyle and Josh. Say hi.
Hello.
Hello.
And today we have special guest Ryan Dailey, one of my long-term best friends. Say hi.
Hello.
Hello. So today, for our Parlay episode, we have a topic I knew Ryan would definitely be a little interested in because we've talked about it quite a bit over the years. So we are going to be talking about the best introductory Marvel film. What I mean by introductory is a film that introduces and builds on a character we haven't seen before. Now, just for clarification, we are not including Shang-Chi because only I've seen it out of the four of us so far, and we are not including Civil War because while it does introduce Spider-Man and Black Panther, they then had their own movies that better introduced them. So let's go around the table, we'll reveal, and then if you have a little spiel you'd like to get out about why your movie is better than the others, we'll do that. Kyle?
I picked Captain America, the First Avenger.
All right, you're going to lose. Josh?
All right.
I picked Iron Man because it's the one that started them all.
You know, that's a fair argument. Ryan, what'd you pick?
I picked Black Panther. I'm pretty sure it's the top grossing introductory movie, so, you know.
There is that. You are correct in that.
That's a valid argument right there.
And I picked Guardians of the Galaxy. All right. So Josh and Ryan have already kind of given a small little 2-second spiel. Kyle, why should any of us think Captain America is the best one?
Oh boy, where do I start? Well, one of my personal favorite things about it is that the same director who did Raiders of the Lost Ark is actually at the helm for Captain America. So you have someone who has worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark. It wasn't technically directed, but I think his name's Joe Johnston, who did work on Raiders, who is the director for Captain America. So he has an idea of like how to capture like that sort of time period era, because Raiders takes place at the end of the 1930s when the Nazis were first coming to power. And obviously, Captain America takes place during World War II, so he has an idea of how to like depict the Nazis like as the prime villain and everything like that. One of my personal favorite things is that just how Steve Rogers like develops as a character. Like one of the things I noticed was there's this kind of perpetual out of time complex that just develops more and more, obviously throughout not only the movie but the series of Marvel movies as well. One of my favorite things was like the post-credit scene. If you haven't seen Captain America, first off, get out from under your rock.
It's old.
Yeah, it's pretty old.
At this point, it's old.
Yeah, there's a line at the
second
end.
Movie.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, come on. There's a line at the end, which is really, I think, kind of like humorously sums up his character, where he meets Nick Fury after running out into the streets of New York. He's like, "I had a date," and just like the delivery of it just explains so much of Cap's character to me. The other thing is his character is very straightforward. Like it's just about wanting to, fight for something bigger, do the right thing. It's the fear of missing out on like fighting for something bigger. That's the whole part of that's the whole introduction of his character. It's the fear of missing out on fighting for the greater good. Like that's a cool character trait to me, and something that at least I personally resonate with a lot.
Fair enough. I mean, that's all good points. I mean, now that you say that director worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark, you can kind of get that kind of vibe.
Exactly.
Almost.
Yeah.
Like
the depiction of that like era was very, very, I thought, accurately depicted.
Yeah. A lot of like timeless moments and very interesting symbolisms that I think are similarly portrayed in Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
He might have done special effects. I can't remember what his role was, but he definitely worked on like this, at least the special effects. So like he knew how to like depict everything and whatnot. And I mean like that ending scene from Raiders where like everyone just like melts away or explodes when they open it. It's like that's an iconic scene. And if someone can like make that look that good, I want him on my movie.
When did Raiders of the Lost Ark come out?
1981. I think it was 81.
It was 81.
It was 81?
Right.
Interesting. And then Captain America came out in
2008. 8.
I want to say like 11.
It was. I think it was 2000. It was either 2010 or 11.
Yeah, it was
Can't
11.
confirm it was 11.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ryan be on his thing. He know.
Yeah.
So interestingly, Captain America: The First Avenger, is the 24th most grossing Marvel film. So that is also including, sequels and
I guess the
I guess
current
crossovers, the Avengers movies as well.
One. Okay.
So it is. Yeah, it's 24th. It grossed 176.654505.
Is that million or?
Yeah, million. 176 million.
That's all Marvel movies, and it was the second one, right? So like,
Yeah, which is
It's still building on itself.
from 2011. That's kind of impressive
Yeah.
because it wasn't established yet.
Mm-hmm.
It was, hey, Captain America, cool, we're making a Captain America movie. All we've made so far really is Iron Man and the Hulk. And the Hulk movies were not.
That's right. They made the first Hulk movies back in like I think the mid 2000s, and those were
not good.
They were not well received.
No. Let's see. So next on the list, wow, Shang-Chi's already at 218, which coming out of a pandemic, that's kind of impressive.
Yeah. Well, I feel like part of that is because people have been itching to go to the movies and see something that's like, captivating. And from the trailer, like Shang-Chi looked pretty cool. I don't really know a whole lot about the character or anything, but
Let's just say if you guys had seen it, I would have picked Shang-Chi. That's loved
fine.
it. It was awesome.
That's okay.
Next on the list is Iron Man, 318 million.
That's pretty good considering it's the very first.
Yeah,
and it has to
how
like
old it is.
establish. It's like
Was that 2008?
Yeah, it's 2008.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then did you say what place did you say it was at?
13th overall for MCU movies. With at 318.
Okay.
318 million.
What list am I looking at then? Because I have it at 19. But I'll take 13.
Overall, what movies does that include? What does it have first? So this has Endgame first at 858.
Is this just domestic or worldwide? Because I thought Endgame
I think
crossed
this,
a billion.
this is just domestic.
Okay,
I'm
I was about to say
assuming.
Endgame worldwide definitely crossed
This
a
is
billion.
lifetime domestic gross.
Endgame, Infinity War.
This has Black Panther
Avengers.
over Infinity War. This has Black Panther at 700 mil and Infinity War at 678.
yeah, but you're on domestic.
Yeah.
Oh, so
yeah.
that's what. Okay, this I think this is looking at worldwide.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
looking at domestic.
That makes sense.
Okay,
So
that's
that
why
would be the
that's why we're
difference.
talking
So,
different lists.
yeah. So either one is impressive. So this has Black Panther at 2 overall, which is stupid impressive.
Oh well, yeah, that was a
for-
huge movie.
Yeah, for hey, this is the first, movie for like full length movie for this character, and he already made 700 million. Man. And then let's see, Guardians. Guardians is second of our 4 picked movies at 333, and Iron Man's at 318. And this
Close.
again is lifetime gross domestically.
But I mean, the other important thing to mention about that, if we're looking at gross things, is that because Iron Man came first, it didn't have that. This is an MCU movie that kind of pushed people into the theaters.
I think the MCU wasn't really established until probably maybe the first Avengers or something like that.
Yeah, well, and then
I
you
think
also
that's when it became like recognized.
Yeah, because that's
yeah.
when there was a tangible product that says, "Hey, this is a whole universe is all connected." I mean, there was like the end credit scenes starting with the Hulk, so everyone knew that's what they were going towards. That's what they were trying to build towards.
And I think the Hulk was the third one released. I guess.
No,
technically.
no, the
it's
Hulk
the one
was
that
the
came
Hulk
out in
is ten-
2000,
technically the first one, 2006 or
Yeah.
7.
2008.
Am I thinking of the one they redid?
So it came out-
2008,
It
The
came
Incredible
out before
Hulk.
Iron Man.
Yeah.
That is the one with Mark Ruffalo, is
No.
it not? Oh, it's
No.
a different. Okay.
Yeah,
you're right.
this is.
Mark Ruffalo wasn't until the Avengers. That was
Oh,
his
okay.
first casting.
Okay. Yeah. I remember.
It
now.
was what's his name? I don't remember the original Hulk guy's name.
something Duncan.
It was the same guy from Fight Club, wasn't it?
Brad Pitt.
No,
Well,
not Brad Pitt.
I think those are I think there are 3 separate Hulks.
Are there?
There's
Maybe.
Lou Ferrigno,
Patrick-
Ed Norton.
Ed Norton.
The 2001,
Ed Norton is in the
Ed Norton,
2003.
who is the main character from Fight Club.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Oh, and then there's Eric Bana from the Hulk in 2003, if you guys remember that one.
Nope.
Which was more of a military focused. I think he like
I
transferred to,
remember
like,
that one.
New York.
I was like 6 when that came out, probably.
Yeah,
It was
but
like
the
5 or 6.
official one that actually goes into the MCU and is technically a part of it is the Incredible Hulk that came out in 2008 that had Ed Norton playing Banner.
Yep.
And then
'Cause
he got
Robert-
recast.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. shows up at the end of that one for the end credit scene.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So that's why it was like, oh, they're doing this whole thing, and then Iron Man came out. And I'm actually curious. I wonder if when they did that, it was like they were just trying to hype up Iron Man, or if they had everything planned out before the Hulk came out.
They probably had, if they did have plans, they probably had at least enough of it. I mean, obviously not all the movies had complete scripts. Complete
no.
cast or
Well, and they
nothing.
might also have had like at least a good amount of kind of phase 1.
But Captain America came out in 2011, so I wonder how much of that was already being planned or was planned, or if they were waiting on success of Iron Man to...
Well, so they might have already had like a kind of a script written and things like that, or had like started the concept of it, but I don't necessarily know. They might have been waiting to see how Iron Man did to actually, start
pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, exactly. To actually start the
What
ball
was-
rolling.
Well, it was worth the wait if it was.
Yeah.
What was the end credit scene to Iron Man?
It was Nick Fury coming to talk about the Avengers Initiative.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
He's in his loft and he's turns around with the pizza or whatever, and he's like, and Iron Man's like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
I don't know if I remember seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
That was
been a
that was
long
before I
time.
knew.
Well, and again, that was kind of the start of the trend of, I mean, Pirates kind of did it some throughout that time period as well, but the actually having
yeah.
end credit scenes. So it wasn't until after some of these movies came out where people actually started waiting to see like end credit scenes was actually a thing.
Yeah. Dude, no one waited. When I went and saw Shang-Chi, no one waited for the end credit scene. I was like,
Well,
Are you
'cause
serious?
realistically, you can just get out of the theater and then you can go watch it on YouTube. And
yeah, but
A little
like,
bit.
Yeah,
but-
I mean somebody's bound to leak
But
it.
why?
I'm saying
Still.
I would wait,
'Cause-
but it's
'cause-
also, I think it also depends on what time you go.
well,
and
during
it's like a
phase 2,
courtesy
they
thing.
started doing the mid-credit scene, which is like the important one, or really during Avengers, right? Because when the
They had
first Avengers movie comes out, there's the mid-credit scene, and
Yeah.
then there's the
Yeah, with
end credit
Thanos.
scene, which is just them eating. What is it? Greek? It's like
Yeah, they're at some restaurant just chilling.
yeah. So they started doing that, and usually people at least stay for the mid-credit scene because it doesn't take but a minute to get to it. But
Yeah.
people didn't even stay for that; they just got up and left. I was like, okay, yeah,
I mean,
just.
Damn good
like-
shawarma place.
Yeah, and it was shawarma. That's what it was. But yeah, dude, the mid credit scene for Shang-Chi was not only funny, but it was cool. I liked it. It got me super excited to see what's next. So I don't know. Anyways, I'll go ahead and go with Guardians. Why I think it's the best. Guardians set this trend that today has become slightly, I think, more common in the Marvel movies that they had fooled around with previously, but Guardians is really the movie that set this trend, and that we don't take ourselves too seriously. The first Avengers movie, they started introducing a little bit of humor, and there were small moments like the whole Thor and Hulk like rivalry. There was like a couple scenes there that was kind of funny. The Hulk beating Loki 1,000 times, dude. I remember being
Swinging
a
him
kid
around like a
and
dish rag.
laughing hysterically at that moment.
That was
But
a good
in
scene.
Guardians, they take that to another level that then helped. Really, the success of that kind of bred what the third Thor movie was. You know that
movie was
which
great.
which honestly, in my opinion, is the second best Thor movie. But a lot of people disagree with me.
It's a different debate for a different
I
week.
think they took
Yeah.
the humor a little too far in that movie. But the
It
first,
became a comedy and an action in Thor Ragnarok for sure.
yeah, and it was that wouldn't have happened. That movie would never have been made if it hadn't been for the success of the blend of humor and of character, portrayal that happened in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
So the ability to have these multiple characters that are introduced, because really it's an introductory for another group, not just a singular character. And all of your movies have multiple characters, but none that were that impactful on the entire universe.
What do you mean?
What he's saying is the movie was about a specific character. It wasn't necessarily about an ensemble of characters.
Yes, and Guardians of the Galaxy
yes.
is about an entire ensemble.
You're right,
Yes,
it is. And it's a
Star-Lord, especially in the first one, is kind of a little bit of the focus, more so than the other characters, but they're truly an ensemble that you're learning about all of them and growing with all of them.
All right, that makes sense.
Going through the events with all of them the entire time.
Yeah, and that's different from what I assume your argument was going to be about Bucky.
Well, I mean, yes.
He is a very important character.
And he even has Rhodey. Like Iron Man, there's Rhodey. And in Black Panther, there's, what's the little sister's name?
Shuri.
Yeah. So,
I got you.
Yeah, all of the movies have multiple characters. Doctor Strange has the other guy.
Is it Benedict Wong? That's his name. His real name.
Wong, yes, Wong.
Yeah.
So yeah, they all have side characters, but Guardians is, hey, here's another group. This isn't the Avengers. This is essentially the intergalactic Avengers. This is
who eventually become friends with the Avengers and team up and do stuff, you know.
It made the universe, the MCU, so much bigger, which opens the doors for many more comic book villains to be introduced. You know, before that, there'd been little, droplets of other worlds and other things in space, but this is the first movie that takes the audience out of just Earth.
Yeah.
And goes, hey, we're going to go light years away or whatever and see all of these different worlds. We're going to travel from planet to planet, involve all these different species, races, all that. So it just kind of opened up the MCU to a lot more.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so and I know kind of what you're saying about the kind of the lightheartedness of it.
Yeah.
And I do think it definitely made him a little bit more lighthearted, but those like little bits and like jokes and things like that were things that had been laid into, I mean, even as far as the Iron Man. As far back as Iron Man, there were small moments in there, like when he's trying to flight test and he's like 10%.
Well, those are the things that the difference is those were character things that they put into specific characters. It was not an aspect of the film. Like Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.'s character had small, witty, comical moments, but that's his character. That's not the film. Guardians of the Galaxy takes that and goes, okay, no, we're going to be a little bit more, I don't want to say real, but they give that characteristic because realistically, all humans have a little humor. Everyone can crack jokes. Anyone can do that kind of thing. So they were like, okay, anyone in this movie can crack a joke. This isn't something that we need to just put on one character to be the comic relief for the whole film. Any character, any moment can be filled with humor. Humor became more a part of the film than a part of a character's writing.
And the overall tone of the film in general did. Yeah. And that was definitely, I think, one of the first times where they did kind of do that, and the tone of it was more lighthearted and fun, and let's go to the movies and listen to songs that we all recognize and things like that.
That first movie had a bomb soundtrack.
Yeah, and
but that's another point that you just failed to mention.
That's another point. I was going to get there. The soundtrack, instead of being an original score completely, which and they started doing this a lot.
Parts of it.
Yeah, there are original moments and scenes where there's an original score in the background, but it didn't feature an original score. Most of the movies up to this point featured an original score with maybe a backing song to a specific scene. Guardians was
Mainly
just a mixtape.
AC/DC with Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's pretty much all of DC.
Yeah. Guardians was a mixtape. It was a straight mixtape, and it was beautifully done.
Yeah.
It was incredibly done. Dude, I used to play that mixtape with Ryan all the time. We would just...
I really like how it was integrated in the film. Like right from the beginning, too. It's the scene with Star-Lord, and he's singing to the song as you are introduced to the film.
Yep.
So it's not just like it's a great background music like you can see in like other films, but it was like integrated into, and like again, it was his mom's mixtape, so like they made it a part of the movie as well.
Yep. It's so well done.
Well, and it was cool that was one of the things that the audience can identify with, but is also one of the things that he identifies with as his humanity. And so it's a thing that he is trying to identify with us as well.
Yep.
So it was a cool way to kind of draw us into this, literally otherworldly experience of a movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
But yeah.
So good. All right, Ryan. Tell us about Black Panther, because Black Panther is arguably my favorite Marvel movie. So you'll be able to win me
they're all
over
really
pretty
good.
early.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy for a long time was like when it came out in 2014. I think that was like my favorite Marvel movie, and then it kind of stuck
for a
with
long
me for a
time
while.
too. Yeah.
But yeah, I came up with Black Panther. Like I said, it is the top grossing introductory film, one of like the top 5 Marvel films, where typically all of their films are Avengers and Civil War, which are, blockbuster, you got everybody in it kind of movies.
Big crossovers.
I think a lot of it speaks, like outside of just the money, it's because of like it was one of the first American films that was like a black-led cast and like production team, and just like what went into making the movie. Like, I don't know, it carried a lot of impact. It seemed like at the time, and that's why I think in large part it was very popular. Not to mention it was still a great movie. I think again, like, they created a whole different country essentially, but it felt like they had a lot of like heritage and culture that was like realistic in it.
Yeah,
So,
well, they actually had Maasai villages and Maasai warriors be the background characters, which is such a cool detail to do and not an easy detail to have pulled off.
I actually didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's incredible. And
Yeah.
if you've, I know you two haven't, pointing to Ryan and Kyle, but Josh and I have actually been to a Maasai village, and it's really crazy to think about. Oh wow, in order to encapsulate the vibe and the culture that they wanted to for this film, the ability to go to one of those villages and get them to be the background characters and do that and have give input on the cultural things that need to be put into this movie. Incredible. And it was very well done.
Did they pay those people?
I'm assuming so.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have their contracts.
Well, yeah. They probably drew something up and were like, all right, here's what we'll give you. And so, yeah. That is pretty cool, though. I like that.
yeah, I mean, like, and even like going further, like the whole production team, they were very accurate as far as like the African royalty and attire and like all of the stuff, like
Yep.
Those
the
costumes.
warrior
are-
attire.
yeah.
Like they went all out within it.
And the score.
I think like the biggest thing about the movie that I liked was like just the execution was very well done. Honestly, like the story itself isn't exactly my favorite. It's not the best of the Marvel movies in my opinion, but I think like the execution, the dialogue of the rapport is like good. It's one of the only movies where you get like a history of, or like it puts you in like the villain's shoes almost.
Yep.
With T'Challa
Killmonger.
or Killmonger.
Yep.
Yeah.
I honestly think of the 4 movies listed, Killmonger's the best villain.
Yeah.
Well, it's because he's one of the most flushed out. And because,
That's
I mean, so I have some interesting thoughts that I want to add to that. But for the for the first Avenger, Captain America, it literally is just a big bad that you have to fight. And it's very black and white in culture and in the movie, and even in those days of like what World War II was. It was, let's go fight some Nazis. And so it was, we didn't really get too into the mindset of Red Skull. And then again, kind of, I mean, we get some kind of understanding in Guardians of the Galaxy of what the villain is, but a majority of the movie is taking these like anti-heroes almost and making them redeemable characters. And I say they're wonderfully written characters. By redeemable, I mean in a good/bad way.
Yeah,
an,
I mean, at
an
least
evil
in the-
versus good. But so and it is like in Iron Man, you're looking at Obadiah Stane, who is basically like what Iron Man or what Tony Stark kind of was before he realized the damage that he was doing to the world. And with Killmonger, it is this like, okay, a very in-depth kind of understandable of like, product of his environment kind of character. And so those are, those two stand out from the other two villains on our list.
Yeah. Yeah, the MCU doesn't really do justice for Red Skull, and I can't remember the Guardians of the Galaxy villain, but they are very similar in just
his name's Ronan, I think.
Yeah, Ronan.
He's Ronan.
yeah, Ronan.
Yeah, he's
like,
one of like
they're just more of like
He's a Kree.
He's a
Yeah.
Kree fanatic.
Yeah, true.
Let's search for power and decimate people along the way.
Yeah, and work for Thanos.
They are
like,
great villains in Marvel, just not in Marvel Cinematic.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there were other things to be told in the story, so it does make sense. But I don't know. Yeah.
One issue that I had with Black Panther was like you mentioned that the story itself was kind of it was okay. My issue was that it took a while to get there.
To like really
Yeah,
explain
and-
what was going on or
Well,
like
and
develop.
then once you had that, it felt like it was over pretty quick. Like it felt like the climax of the story started about halfway through, and then it was basically just one big fight from there. Like there were the small break when T'Challa falls off, and
A
we think
large
he's
part
dead.
of it,
but
I mean, yeah, for like at least like the first hour, it's kind of like building the world, and like all you really get with Killmonger is the scene where he is invading or robbing the museum.
Yep.
Outside of that, you don't really get much because there's also the side villain that Killmonger kills that they're having problems with, and like so
yeah,
on.
and that's another
forget
thing.
There's a
there
bit
was
of
a side
shield
villain.
in there.
I
You
forget
have
there
to
was a
give
side
whole
villain.
Wakanda world and country, and they build upon that. There's a love interest mixed in, like the sister rapport.
There's a lot of information to dump, especially because
Bruce Banner ends up there as well, doesn't he?
No, that's
no,
that's Thor
no,
Ragnarok.
No,
I
it's the
think.
Shield agent that ends up there.
yeah, yep.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot going on.
well, he's not
I
even
guess
Shield.
my
He's
biggest thing is I really
CIA,
like
isn't
the
he?
dialogue and just the execution
was it?
of it.
He is
But-
CIA.
He's
Yeah,
U.S. CIA.
He's
It's
CIA, not Shield.
I remember who it was.
It's the same guy that plays Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
in The Hobbit.
yeah, he was CIA because he didn't know about Wakanda, and then I think he actually is Shield now. I don't remember because I don't know. But yeah, something I actually really liked.
Martin Freeman.
Yeah, something I really liked about Black Panther is while they're telling T'Challa's story and giving you a little bit of background on that and the state of Wakanda now and kind of what he's doing, you don't know who the villain is yet. Killmonger is undoubtedly the real villain of the movie. But they have this other villain with Killmonger just being kind of a background character to his story, going through the movie while we're learning about Black Panther, and then they pull this, I thought, really well done switch of, oh no, actually I'm the bad guy, I'm the guy who's really kind of the mastermind behind this, and I'm gonna go
Oh, I remember that.
take
now.
my rightful place in Wakanda. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I just thought that was very well done. Because you don't want to be following two characters at once. It can kind of take away from the other characters. So it's like, oh, we're going to focus on Wakanda right now. Now we're focusing on this other character. And then at the very end, you come together.
And even then, like throughout that, you're still trying to piece together the starting scene where it's, where you end up finding out it was Killmonger and his dad, but it was like, 20 years back or whatever it was.
Yeah, I remember
So,
So well done. I love
But-
that movie.
I mean, even like, again, though, like, I just think it brings a lot of like great points to see. Because while they're robbing the museum, they're robbing an artifact that was stolen from an African country
Yeah.
out of oppression or slavery or whatever.
Which it turns
I
out
don't
to
know,
actually
like,
be Wakandan.
It does create a bit of a dilemma inside of it, which I thought was really great with Killmonger and everything.
Well, and I think even just the tone of that really kind of set in where like the museum curator came over and was talking to Killmonger about it and was like, yeah, it's from this. And he was like, well, actually, it's not. And like, thank you for explaining that to me, but you're actually completely wrong.
that. Just dead wrong.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The scene where they just like vibrated the rust off of the vibranium, I thought that was really cool.
I haven't seen most of these movies in a while. I'm gonna have to go back and just watch them again.
Yes, you should. Black Panther's phenomenal.
No, I mean it is. I've seen all of these at least once, but it's been a while since I've seen some of them.
Not to mention, once again, the soundtrack. It's not only very accurate. Well, actually, like I mean, it does a blend of it all. So you get like the old African tribal music, you get the new current age. They do like hip hop, they do pop, they do it all, and I think it all blends together very well in the movie.
It
was, I think, probably the second most popular soundtrack, just behind Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Josh, what you got to say about Iron Man?
Well, so Iron Man is one of those movies that a lot of people have seen a lot, and so they kind of almost think that it was one of the first to come out, so people have seen it a lot, and then they think that, okay, well, I've seen it so much, I don't need to go back and watch it. But it's I don't know when was the last time you guys actually watched Iron Man?
Years. It's been years.
Probably on TNT whenever it was rerunning. Like I think about a year ago. I watched it with my dad.
Okay.
During COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a Marvel fanatic, and I like Robert Downey. I'm not exactly the best person to ask, but it has probably been at least over a year for me as well.
Okay.
I have seen it.
Yeah, but
many times, so.
Yeah, it is. It's just one of those that like when people go back and rewatch Marvel movies, it's not normally one that they watch, so it usually kind of gets discounted. But in itself, I think it is actually a really good film. The soundtrack might not be up to what they hadn't quite figured out the formula because it was one of the first. But I mean, even just the characterization of Tony Stark, and especially seeing all of the the universe going forward and seeing the person that he becomes and seeing where he starts. The movie almost is basically a punishment of him, and they're breaking him down. There's like 40 minutes where he's just in a cave. And so you get to see, this kind of playboy philanthropist that he is at the beginning, where he doesn't really care about anything. And then, the realization that he's damaging the world with the way that he is, and being able to see him come back and try to make those changes, and you do really kind of get to see that, okay, well, there is proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Was something that,
or at least cares about something other than just himself and his business or whatever.
Well, exactly. Well, and a lot of people think of him, and this public persona is that he is a merchant of death, is what they called him.
Yep.
And that he is just heartless and doesn't care about the deaths of people and things like that. When really he's just, in his mind, is kind of doing what he does and what his gift is, and doesn't realize that there's something more that he should be doing. Mm-hmm. And he's just kind of on autopilot, I think, in the first bit of it. Just doing kind of what's easy, what's in front of him, what will make money, and and then the realization of what his actions actually cause. I think being able to make that shift, and it's not an easy shift that he makes. He's been maimed, which in a way that he personally can manage because he's Tony Stark.
Right.
But I mean, he has shrapnel in his chest, and I don't think it actually comes out until, I think it's end of the second one or something like that. It's like
Iron Man 3 or something.
Yeah, it's like very end of the second one or very end of the third one. I can't remember. But he does end up actually having the shrapnel removed. But either way, he's still got this hole in his chest.
Yeah, he still keeps the arc reactor just because. Or does he?
He keeps it because it powers his suit, but yeah.
Well, he keeps it because it powers his suit, and because there's a hole in his chest.
Yeah, it's a bit symbolic for him as well.
Yeah. When does he take it out? Because it's not in the second one.
It's not in the second one.
It's not during the second one. I think it's like a closing outro for the second one, or it's the third one. It's whichever one is immediately after.
Sounds right, Josh. I think it might be like literally right at the end of the second, after, like past the resolution and everything. Because at the end of before the resolution.
Well, okay, so I remember what it is. So he takes the shrapnel out during the second one, but then the third one he finds out that the material being used, he's being poisoned.
That's what it is.
Okay.
And then he has to create the new elements. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So yes, he does actually remove the shrapnel in the second one.
Yes. But yeah, then he is still dealing with I don't even remember what it's like, lithium poisoning or something like that.
Post effects, yeah.
Gotcha.
I definitely agree that Iron Man, in my opinion, is basically just the first Marvel cinematic movie. Hulk kind of, I don't know that was like a part of the cinematic universe as much as it kind of got put back in to give Bruce Banner a bit of a stronger backstory.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, yeah, the big thing is like Iron Man isn't just kind of like a superhero Marvel movie yet because they're still figuring it all out. It's kind of a blend of an action movie, a drama, even. And I mean, it definitely has the strongest character development out of any of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and that was like we were talking about villains, and I kind of mentioned it briefly, but it does seem like Obadiah Stane is basically in the same mindset of what Tony was before he was in the cave, and
Yeah,
so it's that symbology of Tony literally fighting against his old self and his old way of life, and trying to move forward to be that better man.
Definitely. Like, I mean, he embraced the Merchant of Death, if you called it, from like the press. He calls himself Playboy, billionaire, philanthropist, and then like so on. And I think like the other like interesting thing that happens is he shifts like I feel like multiple times because like even the person that comes out of the cave in the Iron Man suit and the person at the end of the movie are still two different people, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Where
Well, he
he's
just
like
shifts throughout
still
the
trying to figure
series.
out
Yeah,
what he wants to do other than just stop putting terrible
I mean, the
instruments
reason
of death in
he's
the world.
the most loved character in the franchise is because he's the character that never stops developing until the day he dies.
Yeah,
And that's not the case for a lot of the other characters.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference between Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah,
Iron Man.
yeah, and
sure.
I personally, I think Tony Stark, Iron Man, goes through the biggest change in Iron Man 3.
I would agree with you on that, but we're not talking
yeah.
about.
Yeah. I don't know. I agree.
If I could have, I would have picked Iron Man 3.
Yeah,
but
Iron Man is an incredible movie. It kicked off the series better than I think any other character could have, the way it was written.
Yeah.
I do agree with that. I guess for me, the thing that the reason I wouldn't put it over my movie is from just a film standpoint. Part of this is just literally it was the first trial and error they were able to continually improve. But the score is just not on the level as the others. A lot of the actual cinematography and CG not on the level of the others. The story writing is good and sets up for everything to happen. It's just not good enough to put it ahead of the others for me. Like yes, the character development of Tony Stark is incredible, but I think the character development for example,
T'Challa.
Killmonger is just as good as Tony Stark, but he's just a villain. And then we also got to learn about T'Challa, and I like Black Panther just better. I think it's a more appealing story to me.
yeah, and I think that specifically talking about the character development, if that's really what you want to compare here. I don't know that there's a whole lot of development, and neither of those characters really change. Like we get a look into Killmonger, and we get to understand who he is, but we don't see him change his mind. We don't see any, like, he's very firm in his beliefs, and there's no real development. He just does this, does this, does this, does that.
Might have been the wrong word. In that comparison, the way the story's told.
Okay.
Who the character is and how that character's fleshed out.
Okay.
So not necessarily development.
Okay.
When it comes to development, honestly, of our three movies, Ryan, Kyle, and I's, the one that probably gets the best development is Star-Lord. Because I don't feel like Black Panther he's not challenged all that much outside of he kind of learns about his dad's mistakes.
Yeah,
and
he learns what it means to be a king, of making mistakes and moving forward and being accepting of all. And I think it actually is, for that, I would say his development is the shift from not wanting to be diplomatic in Civil War and not wanting, like, keeping Wakanda closed off and not helping others and opening it up at the end. But that's really kind of the only actual development that there is in that.
Yeah.
For those characters.
And that's not just a T'Challa development either. That was all the characters around him were realizing that because of what they were learning.
Yeah.
Captain America, one of the reasons it's not one of my favorite movies is because I feel like Captain America himself doesn't develop until really late in the story. He doesn't develop in Captain America the First Avenger very much at all. Like he gets to achieve the things he was hoping to achieve and then has a great impact on society and then does the thing that he was essentially says he was bred to do, which is save people and sacrifices himself. Like it was kind of and it's a great story, but
Yeah.
the character doesn't develop in that movie. In my opinion, he doesn't.
I mean, I think a big thing with Captain America though is he isn't meant to develop. Again, like that's just kind of a part of the story.
Yeah, he's pretty
he is
straightforward.
already that person. That's the reason that he was chosen to become Captain America instead of just stay Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
If anything, you could say that like the character development in that movie comes to America as a country and the world developing around what Captain America means. Because it is the changes that go through during that when he sacrifices, and then even at the very end when he comes back and you see how much the world has actually changed.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
and that's expanded upon in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. If you haven't watched that, you really should.
I will also say the points against like CGI or just kind of like fancy production essentially in Iron Man doesn't seem exactly fair because they had a larger budget.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's necessarily fair. Yeah, Guardians, Black Panther, and Captain America all had bigger budgets, especially Guardians and Black Panther.
Oh yeah,
but it
in part because of the success of Iron Man.
Yes,
but
definitely.
also the other thing that I think made Iron Man, because none of these other films I think could have. I guess you could technically probably have done. Captain America, I don't think would have been a great first. Like, I'm just thinking of like if other places were in like the first film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know that Captain America would have been. It could have been a good one just because it was already in the past. But I think trying to introduce things kind of in the future of what's going on now.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, Iron Man is the best first movie you could have made. Black Panther would have been decently successful.
Black Panther would have been interesting because then you have that. Okay, well, we're opening up Wakanda now. Let's as Wakanda go experience the world.
Yeah, and it would have been very interesting to actually see that through those characters' eyes. Yeah, but it's still I don't think it would have been as successful as Iron Man and Guardians. As great of a movie as it was, and personally, out of the four, if you were to take it out of the MCU, I think Guardians is probably the best standalone because Iron Man feels like it's building to something. Even after the movie ends and it's resolved, it feels like it's building to something else, to a new story, to the continuation of Tony Stark. Right. The first Guardians doesn't necessarily feel that way. It feels like a story to me that is opened, you go through the story, and then you can close the book, you're done with the story. You don't have to see those characters again. It could easily be a standalone movie. However, to start a franchise, I don't know that it would have been a great option. No one knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were before it was a thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's also my point is that Iron Man is kind of a more grounded film. It for the most part is just dealing with somebody who's making weapons, and albeit they're ridiculously effective weapons, but they are something that you could see in real life. And actually going through and seeing him build the Iron Man suit, and again, while the technology is insane, it is something that is fathomable. It's possible. Yeah. It's not as far-fetched as, okay, well, there's all this vibranium technology. Okay, well, then we have, if it was to start with Thor, it's like, okay, well, gods are real. And so it's not as magical or out there. It's a very kind of grounded, like, okay, this is a guy who built a suit, and, it's kind of Batman-esque of like, okay, well, yeah, if you had a lot of money and you knew how to throw a punch, you could theoretically do this.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the reason that I think it was a good entry. And then you can see how things kind of escalate and how the world expands from that now that this has happened. But I do think also as Tony Stark's character, I think it's a great touching point of a way to push off of like, okay, well, I've done this. Now let's go do something else. Like this, I've cleaned up my mess.
Yeah.
Now let's go make the world a better place.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely do not disagree with the point of that is the best movie they could have picked to kick off the franchise. That is absolutely just the case. I guess for me, I just know that I do not enjoy rewatching Captain America and Iron Man nearly as much as I enjoy rewatching Black Panther and Guardians of the Galaxy. That's just the biggest thing that is hard for me to get over.
And I'm curious if, because I mean, you could do like it. I don't want them to remake Iron Man, but I am curious of what it would do with today's technology, with understanding kind of the Marvel formula of what it is now.
And today's budget.
And today's budget and knowing that, because I mean, that's the other thing is the budget was significantly lower for it.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't know if the Marvel Cinematic Universe was something that was going to take off or not. I mean, they had a good idea that it probably would, but I mean, like if the Marvel Cinematic Universe didn't exist, like you said, nobody knew about the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
I honestly didn't even know what they were until I sat down and watched it.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have had
little.
as many people going into it if it didn't have that MCU tag on it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on board with Captain America. Honestly, I think it's probably one of the worst movies for me to watch in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it's one of the most boring ones, personally.
I clearly picked the wrong movie.
I mean,
but to like speak more on Iron Man, I definitely think it is like as it seems like we've agreed on, like one of the best movies, if not the best, to like start the Marvel Cinematic Universe off of. As far as rewatchability, I would say it stands in the same tier, especially because, again, I consider Black Panther and Guardians of the Galaxy to be like a full-on superhero movie. I feel like Iron Man, again, kind of sits in the world of superhero, but action and a little bit of like a drama. Like it fills more moods for me. So like I could want to watch it more than just wanting to watch a superhero movie at times. I will say, as far as the best standalone one, though, again, I'm gonna like support Black Panther.
Yeah.
Clearly, it had the most standalone success, and I think it had to do basically because of like the execution, the story, and how like they could change it again to not just feel like a straight superhero movie, but it felt like it had a lot of African and African American culture and heritage to like be a part of.
It was culturally impactful. I think if you look at all these movies, the one that had the biggest impact on culture outside of just being entertainment was Black Panther.
Yeah, and not to mention, not even just in Marvel. Again, it was one of the first American films to have like a black-led cast.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you're right. I'm not denying that point at all. But I think also the impact that Iron Man had in the way that, I mean, we even talked about it earlier of like post-credit scenes not necessarily being a thing. They had kind of been dabbled in with the Pirates franchise, but they hadn't really been a thing until Iron Man. And so, that one simple thing changed the way that people made movies, where other movies now that are not connected to the MCU at all are now having, post-credit scenes. And it's the idea that you can have an entire franchise that's interconnected and that is, spans, what is it? I mean, it's like 22 movies at this point, at least. No, Shang-Chi just came out, so it's at least 23.
Yeah.
I think it's over like 3 days worth of film. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
So, I mean, in all of that being interconnected, all started with technically the Incredible Hulk, but started with Iron Man. And so, I think that it definitely had an impact on culture and the way that, we treat going to movies, interacting with movies, and the way that filmmakers are looking at actually producing movies and series now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I don't think that there's like one true answer. If you ask like genuinely what my favorite introductory film is, I would just say it's a 3-way tie. I like Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Black Panther. That's kind of where my head's at, and they all excel in different ways.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, we're running about 50 minutes, so let's go ahead and go around. So we're going to reward points. You can choose not to reward points. However, I do encourage you, if someone made a good point that you either didn't think about or you just agreed with, or it's just maybe it's the other movie that you would have picked. reward a point. So who wants to go first?
I'm giving my point to Ryan.
Okay. Kyle is rewarding Ryan 1 point, so it's 1 point for the guests.
Okay.
All right, I'll reward a point. I'm rewarding a point to Ryan too. Black Panther is definitely like the other movie that if I had thought about it, I probably would have picked it. Guardians just popped in my head first. So, yeah, I love Black Panther, man. None of the Marvel movies have affected me like Black Panther did. When I left the theater, I was just like, dude, that was whoa. Like I saw it 4 times in the theaters.
I was going to say, I think it's the only one that I've seen more than once in the theaters.
Yeah. So it was a great movie. So yeah, I'm giving my point to Ryan.
I will give, like, again, as I've said, it's a 3-way tie for me, but I will give my point to Kyle.
Yes.
Because, like, I feel like he really did paint, like, a different picture for Captain America for me. Like, again, going into this, I think it was, in my opinion, my worst MCU movie, or at least just the lowest one. I don't think that they're bad. I just kind of felt like it was boring, but I mean, I guess I think he kind of put it in a different light for me, and so I did appreciate his argument.
Thanks.
I hate you.
So I stand firm. If there's one of these movies that I'm going to rewatch, it's going to be Iron Man. But the next one would be Guardians of the Galaxy, because it is just a fun film, and it is. I mean, it's just fun to listen to. You know, I mean, even if you're just driving, you're on a road trip, don't watch the movie, but just like play it on your phone and listen to it.
Just put it on in the background.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a good time, and it's hard to watch that movie and not feel happy and excited and you know, every little bit of it. So with that being said, I'm going to give my point to Ryan. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to give my point to Nathaniel.
All right. Well, that is all points awarded for this Monday's Parlay episode. We will see you guys on Wednesday when we talk about the most interesting polytheistic religion. It's going to be an interesting one.
Yay.
All right. See you.
Bye.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Be sure to join us on the next episode, where we will continue to debate as good friends do. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube, and stay up to date on all things asshat, and to participate in polls and activities throughout the week based on the themes of the upcoming episodes.
We also started a Patreon for those of you who are interested in showing your support in a more direct way. On our Patreon, we have a ton of bonus content, including tier lists, loser dinners, and bonus podcast episodes.
We want to continue making content that makes you think, smile, and especially laugh. And the best way that you guys can help us do that, leave a like or a comment, download and share all these episodes with your friends and family members who you think would enjoy our tomfoolery, our shenanigans, and all those other crazy words that encapsulate our content.